A person in a lift is holding a water jar which has a small hole at the lower end of its side. Now, please mind that this person is standing inside of a lift like this, and this person is holding a jar. Okay, so there is this jar. Now, this jar has a small hole on its side. Okay, like this little small hole on its side. There's further information that when the lift is at rest, water jet coming out of the hole hits the floor of the lift at a distance of 1.2 meters from the person. So this is hitting over here. So let's say this is 1.2 meters from the person, right? Now let's go back to our basics of projectile motion. And what kind of projectile motion are we looking at? Horizontal projectile motion. Horizontal projectile motion, in which the ux is equal to some constant and uy is equals to 0. These are the two given conditions. You remember that projectile motion, that if I were to, let's say, stand on top of a tower, right, and then throw a ball like this, then it will follow a curved path and it will land like this, and the equations that you will observe will be minus h is equals to half into minus gt square. We will not use the ut wala part. Why? Because u is equals to 0 in this case. Which u is this? This is uy. And this distance was calculated in a way, let's call this r for range. This was calculated in the way ux multiplied by this t, the same t from that you get from here. Right? Now what is the concept? The concept is that the water is falling in this particular manner, in this particular direction. So it has only a ux, only a velocity along the x direction, no velocity along y direction. Which means that its motion along the y direction is completely unaffected by how fast this water is coming out. It may be coming out this fast, or it may be coming out this fast, or it may be just just coming out this far. Which means that each time it will take the same amount. In each case, it will take the same amount of time to travel this much amount of distance. You're getting me? Which means that if I have to have this distance greater than 1.2 meter, then all I will ever need is to increase the ux. And if this d is less than 1.2, then all I will ever need is to decrease the value of ux. Got it? Because the travel time is same, this t value, the travel time is same. Each time it is traveling the same amount of vertical distance. Alright, so what is given? What is for further information in this case? So it's falling at a distance of 1.2 meter, and what is happening when the lift is accelerating vertically up, or if it is going vertically down, or if it is moving with a constant speed, or if it is falling freely, that we have to consider. Now, we know from our knowledge of fluid mechanics and Bernoulli's theorem that water flows out with the speed of square root of 2gh, where h is the height of the jar. Now this is the case when you are just standing with the jar in your hand without moving up or down, when the only effective acceleration downwards is due to gravity. Once you start moving upwards, what happens? A pseudo force starts acting on you downwards. So if you are moving upwards, Kunal, are you following? If you are moving upwards, upward motion implies a downward pseudo force. Have you ever felt this while going up in the elevator, that suddenly when you move up, something heavy, it feels something heavy is there on in your body, right? And when you go down, something light feels. So that heaviness, why is that heaviness occurring? That is occurring because of this downward pseudo force. Now this downward pseudo force, what will it do? It will increase the value of this acceleration, which means V will be equal to square root of 2 times of h times of g plus a in case of upward motion. Because the net force downwards increases. It is not mg, it is actually mg plus a, which means that velocity will increase. So because velocity has increased, ux has increased, d becomes greater than 1.2. So what do we have? Lift is accelerating vertically upwards, d is greater than 1.2. Got it? So we have a2. No, wait. This is given correct. No, that's wrong. This is M-Vibes interface, right? See, from what I know is that because if the lift is accelerating upwards, d should be greater than 1.2. If it is accelerating vertically downwards, then d should be less than 1.2. I think that you have already marked. Lift is moving vertically up with constant speed. It should be 2. It should be d is equals to 1.2. C should be 1. C has to be 1 because constant speed means there is no extra acceleration, no pseudo force, right? And if the lift is falling freely, then the effective gravity becomes 0 and d should be 4. D should be 4 is correct, C should be 1 is correct, B and C are wrong. C and D are correct in this. This is half correct, half wrong. Okay. So I hope it is clear. I hope you are applying the same logic that I was applying. Okay, now you're able to. Okay. You applied your logic and now you are able to better understand. Okay, fine. Right. But not through equations. See, now that we've proved it through equations, you should be able to understand that this option only looks shady. Right? I mean, they have given A as 1 and B as 1. Both are 1. How is that possible? How is that possible? No, not at all. Anyway, so let's go to some other question. Okay, let's talk about this question. A body is moving down an inclined plane of angle of inclination theta. The coefficient of friction between the body and the plane varies as mu is equals to 0.5x, where x is the distance moved down the plane. So it is asking the body will have maximum, minimum. It is asking basically when will the body have maximum speed, and it is also asking when it will stop. So let's draw the diagram first. You said you have a difficulty in applying NLM, right? You don't know when to apply the FBD, how do we exactly write down the forces, right? So first of all, the key is to draw what the diagram looks like. I mean, what roughly it is. Say here it is something that I've drawn just roughly. Okay. Now what am I going to do? I'm going to separate this out over here. Okay. And now I'm going to start applying. Okay, that's a horrible diagram. I'm sorry. Now I'm going to start writing the forces on it. So this is the normal reaction, obviously. This is the force of gravity, correct? This force of gravity will have two components. there will be mg cos theta, where theta is this angle. I hope you know that. And this will be mg sin theta, right? What else is given? The coefficient of friction between the body and the plane varies as mu is equals to 0.5x. Okay, so we have a variable friction force. Wow, amazing. Mu is equals to 0.5x, which means that the body will start, when the body will start, it will act like a frictionless surface, but after some time it will start providing some problems toward motion, right? Okay, so let's say that mg sin theta is the force which is driving it downwards, and the net force along this direction should be mg sin theta minus friction, right? This should be equal to m into a along this direction. So where friction we can write as 0.5 times of x times of mg cos of theta. Got it? Is the value of mass given? Please give it 2 kg. No, they haven't. See, I wanted it 2 kg because 2 times 0.5 becomes 1. So anyway, let's just separate it out. Mg sin theta minus mg by 2 x cos theta gives equal to ma. We cancel out the value of m and we take g common, and it becomes 2 sin theta minus x cos theta, and this is divided by 2 is equals to a. Now you can see that you have acceleration as a function of displacement, right? Let's go back to our knowledge of kinematics, where acceleration used to be v dv by dx. Correct? So we will just simply write it as, let me change the color, v dv by dx. Okay. Now what is required? What is required is that you find out what is the velocity as a function of displacement. You simply integrate it. Then what do we get after integrating it? It becomes g sin theta minus g by 2 cos this, the plenty of calculation over here, x, and then dx is equals to v dv. Integrate it. Initially the speed should be 0 because it is obviously starting from rest, and that time the displacement is also 0. Finally speed should be v, and that time the displacement should be x. So from here you get velocity as a function of displacement. So what have they asked? Maximum speed. Maximum speed is found when? When do you think is the maximum speed found? When the maxima of speed is when acceleration is 0. So if we were to find out the maximum, we could just simply equate this to 0 only, no? Right? Then you would find wherever the acceleration is coming, you would find out where the velocity is maximum. So that is one answer that you can get. Body will stop moving at what? Now stop moving, what do you mean by stop moving? Stops moving when v will be equal to 0. Right? So I guess you could simply, instead of v, you could put the limit 0 over here, from 0 to 0. So basically integration is from here, the integration is void. You could basically integrate this part and then equate it to 0. That also will give you the answer. X. We're starting from 0 and we're moving till x. Yeah. We're finding x. I think it should come out to be okay.